printing, basically, which will destroy currencies and create wild inflation. I think it's the point where a loss of confidence can feed on itself and destroy our currency as much as any of the other world currencies. The protection we've had is that everybody else is destroying theirs too. But I think all of the world's currencies will be blown away in some kind of a generational view, not necessarily next year, not necessarily even in a couple of years. But I think the track and the direction we're headed, you've identified quite well. And it's going to be fairly difficult for people unaware, as I'd say the majority of middle class and sort of victimized Americans, and in many countries, working class people will sort of say, what happened to my savings? They'll wake up some morning and the banks will all have been closed, a new currency issued, and they'll have inability to access their accounts. That kind of thing is going to happen, I think, in more places than we realize.
Yeah, and it's absolutely amazing that the mainstream press, I'm almost calling them the government press.
Yeah, won't talk about it.
Yeah, they don't present these issues so that the average voter out there, it's almost like they're suppressing them. And I know, Bud, I used to do television news in 1991 and 92, and I was amazed at the amount of stories that we spiked and kept from the public because we simply didn't want them to know. And it really, I got to the point where I finally just left because I wasn't allowed to do what was basic reporting or journalism. It was all dictated by sort of like a political outcome. And that's what I think you see in the press today, and I think that's one of the reasons why the Internet and other forms of news have become so popular versus, let's say, network news or major newspapers like the New York Times and the Washington Post.
Yeah, I would rather be reading Financial Sense than watching mainstream media these days that really is shoveling us. I mean, there is news in there, but a lot of things, it's hard to know how much censored or control or just sort of attitudinal people are trying to make things look like they're happier than they are for a generic audience that would rather see things happier than they are. But the reality is, I don't think the mainstream receiver gets an honest view. I think that's what you're saying, really, isn't it?
Yeah, because, I mean, have you ever heard reporters go out and say, they're talking about maintaining, you hear this, we want to keep Social Security on a sound basis. Well, wait a minute, you just cut the payroll tax by 30%. And you're wondering why Social Security is running a deficit. And have you ever heard anybody say there is no Social Security trust fund? It's just an empty file drawer with IOUs? I've never heard it.
Well, you and I know it.
Yeah.
It's there. It's not a hidden reality. It's not like it's not a fact. You and I know it as a fact. But you're right. The mainstream does not focus on the, what do you call it, deception, I think is the right word here, don't you?
Yeah, and then also the only one I thought it was quite amusing on Capitol Hill this week, Ron Paul was there grilling Bernanke, and he basically, Bernanke's talking about moderating inflation, low inflation, and Ron Paul said, do you ever get out and do your own grocery shopping? I mean...
I did not see that, but I want to ask you what your reaction to was a clip that I just happened to tune into, which was some different senator asking Bernanke, does the Federal Reserve own gold? Bernanke looked kind of blank and said, gee, I don't know. I can't believe this. Then Bernanke turned around for some staff person behind him. They said, oh, somebody behind me just told me that we have gold certificates, but I don't really know. Bernanke doesn't know? And then the second question follow-up said, well, gold is an asset, but it's not important. This is the central banker where he was supposedly studied the value of monetary systems based on some kind of eventual conversion to a species, and he says, I don't know if the Federal Reserve has gold? What kind of lies through your bald-faced teeth could be going on? There is no sincerity or honesty, intellectually or otherwise, in this group of people. Did you happen to catch that clip? And did you?
I did. And what about 9/11, where they had all that gold in the Federal Reserve was
in Building 7, in the basement.
In the towers. Yeah, Ben, whose gold was that? And if it wasn't yours or you don't know where did it go? That would be my question. Where is that gold?
Yeah, of course, that's another question. Why hasn't there been a decent audit of supposedly the nation's gold? Yeah, Bernanke went on another one and said, well, it's really controlled by the Treasury. We just have certificates. What kind of double talk is this? I guess they say that's to blame the Treasury when they finally figure out that there isn't any gold in Fort Knox except a few little bars near the front door. I don't know. I mean, I'm making that up for the fun of it, partly because I mistrust government, not because I know anything. But if they really had the gold there, I don't think they should be afraid of an audit and haven't done one. It's probable that the central banks of the world have been lying to all of us about their eventual potential of returning to a gold standard because they probably don't have the gold. That's a totally unjustified opinion, probably inappropriate for public consumption, but it shows my attitude of mistrust for these guys.
That's amazing because I was watching the History Channel the other night, and it was all on Fort Knox, and it was called America's Book of Secrets. Is there really gold there? And the last time that they audited, or they took a couple Congress people, I think it was in the early 70s because Nixon was president, and they took them into the vault and they showed them a room and there was actually gold bars there. I mean, they didn't show them everything, but that was the last time anybody's ever even seen the gold. I don't even think somebody in government knows where that gold is or if it's there. And I'm certain the Fed knows it. And there's been some strange accounting on the government's balance sheet in terms of how we cover that gold. It almost looks more like a liability. Maybe we're keeping it, but maybe it's owned by somebody else. Who knows?
You're on to it. And that's why I brought this up, that I don't trust what Bernanke was sort of faking lack of knowledge there on something as crucial as this. He knows something. He just doesn't want to talk about it. That's my point.
No, and I think this is one of the reasons that is making it very difficult for a lot of businesses today. They don't know what tax policy is going to be. They don't know what regulation policies are going to be. I mean, look at all the things that are starting to come out, even with this issue over abortion with the Catholic Church that came out. There's all kinds of little things that we're just finding out. And when you don't know what the future is going to be, what the rules are, or how about MF Global, we can change the rules. Or contract law, it really shows that things are getting out of hand. But, you know, Bud, when you go back and read things like the great inflations, whether you're talking about Germany in the 20s, Argentina, this is the kind of behavior you see both at the government level. You know, it's funny, but universally now, whether you're talking about Argentina, which states its inflation rate is 10% when everybody knows it's 20.
The law that an economist can't produce his own guesstimate of inflation because that would be illegal. I mean, it's beyond even sensibility, isn't it?
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. There's a bill before Congress right now to make it illegal to protest at any event where, let's say, a congressperson is at.
No kidding.
Yeah, they don't want you to be protesting at a town hall meeting. I guess you can get arrested in the future. That's basically how oppression starts out. When governments get desperate, they start getting oppressive. And we're starting to see more and more evidence of it, which is, I guess, one of the reasons, Bud, it's probably for safety's sake, you got to own hard assets because the paper that you have in your wallet is depreciating every day.
Absolutely. And a little comment, because it just happened yesterday, $100 drop in the price of gold. Normally that would scare me. And I would say, gee, there must be something happening that I don't know about, because my view is that gold is one of the salvation points that people like us, you and me, with some savings, can be attacked, can be protected from attack in this financial repression. We should hold some precious metals and physical assets as protection against destruction of the paper currency system. But think about it. I mean, this was one trade at 10,000 contracts, which is a million ounces. All right, seemed to be timed right at the time Bernanke was talking, so it could be blamed on Bernanke or something. I don't think Bernanke said anything that important. But the point I was trying to get to is there will be times when our own faith might be questioned. But I think you and I have enough bedrock in our understanding to believe and understand that we do need to protect ourselves, even though we can't trust MF Global, the COMEX trading systems, and whoever else may jump in and try, and whether it's funded by a central bank or a corrupt hedge fund, I don't know. But one trade like that was clearly designed to affect the market as much as probably actually be useful trading. And if anything, that's a trading opportunity. You and I should be buying today on the new drop, because buying things like buying the house next door on a foreclosure at half the price it was 6 months ago or something. It's on sale. We should be buying. And the long-term story that you and I have been talking about here is that we probably have to work hard to protect ourselves from these machinations of financial systems that are destroying the paper currencies of the world.
You know, it's amazing because I did buy gold yesterday when they dropped it like that. Yeah, I checked with bullion dealers and their phones were ringing off the hook. I don't think they realize when they try these, and they've had 3 attempts at this. They did it in September of last year. They did it in November, December, and they did this thing yesterday. It's amazing what happens at the difference between the paper market, which they can try to manipulate, and what goes on in the actual physical market. I talked to 3 bullion dealers and their phones were ringing off the hook, people buying. And I think that's something that they're not going to be able to control. In other words, it's the physical market is eventually going to take control from the paper market and overwhelm it. And I guess that's a good thing. Well, listen, Bud, as we close, if our listeners would like to follow your work at Casey Research, tell them how they could do so. And I also want to mention, if you're listening to this broadcast, that Bud has written an excellent book called Profiting from the World's Economic Crisis, Finding Investment Opportunities by Tracking Global Market Trends. Very astute analysis of the world that we live in today. Bud, how can they follow you at Casey?
Thanks for the nice plug on my book. Appreciate it, Jim, and appreciate all the good work you and Financial Sense are doing. We publish newsletters and have some free newsletters at CaseyResearch.com. CaseyResearch, research.com. I hope you listeners have a chance to gain from our work and insights, too. Thanks for your good work, Jim.
All right, Bud. Once again, you can follow Bud at Casey Research, and don't forget to take a look at Bud's book, Profiting from the World's Economic Crisis, Finding Investment Opportunities by Tracking Global Market Trends. We've been speaking once again with Bud Conrad. Bud, clear sailing, my friend.
Always nice to talk to you, Jim. Thanks for your good insights.